I've had several questions about problem number 14 in chapter 15. I gave you on the spreadsheet this particular equation as we're looking at Home Depot and Lowe's and trying to find the earnings before interest and taxes, the EBIT, that would be the indifference level, which means that the earnings per share will be the same regardless of which one we are looking at. Typically, this problem involves the same company and looking at degrees of leverage. Here, we're talking about two different companies. Nonetheless, the concept will be the same. I'm going to show it two different ways. That is, I'm going to show it one way very algebraically. That is, looking at the problem, I've got all the right numbers in there. Hopefully you are referring back to page 514 and 515 with your book open as we go through this. I've already got the problem worked out to save some time, and as I uncover each new step, you may want to pause it, do it on your own to see all the small steps that I might be doing. So again, to begin with, we have the problem set up as you see there. And naturally, as you're looking at this, you're probably thinking this is a very large number to cross multiply, or perhaps large numbers to cross multiply by. So what we're going to do is to look at that and say, can I make my denominators smaller? The answer, of course, is yes. How? Much of this I may say over and over, recall back from algebra days, and that may not be something you want to do, but something that we need to do. We're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 10 million. Now, why 10 million? Why not just 10? Or why not 1,000? Well, again, I don't want to make this, well, I guess I will be making this basically a math lesson, but we're trying to eliminate as many factors of 10 as we can in the denominator. So, looking at what we currently have, what will happen, of course, is this. For instance, each set of three zeros would be multiplying by 1,000. They go away. Another set of 1,000, if you will, another set of three zeros will go away. And even this zero here with this zero here. It wasn't very mathematical the way I spoke about it, but hopefully you realize what's going on. That is, if this was only 1,000 over 1,000, it would be equal to 1. But here's not 1,000, it's 10 million over the 1.46 billion. So again, this is what's going to be happening. We are factoring out factors of 1,000 here. Also, hopefully you realize that I did a small step here. 1 minus 0.35 is going to give me the 0.65 on both sides. Now, the next step, with a little bit of simplification, this is what we would have at the moment. I'm hoping you see where the 170 came from. 170. I did not divide that out. Okay, so again, I hate to say it's simple math. It is, in fact, math that you've had before. Now, what will I do in the next step? I'm going to multiply both sides by 146 and likewise multiply both sides by 170. You would never actually do that. You wouldn't even think about that. You're going to think, I'm going to cross multiply. Okay? I'm going to cross multiply. And that's exactly what's being shown in the next step. That is 146 times 0.65 is where this 94.9 comes from. 94.9 EBIT. You can think of the EBIT simply as the unknown. If you want, you can put X in there. 146 times negative 452,400 is going to give me 66,050,400. Going to do the exact same thing with the 170. As I cross multiply, this would be the result. Hopefully, as you're looking at this, it is looking more simple all the time to you. We have two terms on the left-hand side. We have two terms on the right-hand side. Notice that this term has the unknown. This term has the unknown. We need to get those isolated on one side of the equation. How do we do that? We subtract 110.50 EBIT from both sides. We will add to both sides this 66,050,400, adding that to both sides. So again, subtracting for both sides, adding to both sides. This will be my result. Feel free to take a moment. I encourage you to do so. And with your paper, pencil, and calculator, make sure you get these results. We're almost home free. Again, EBIT is the unknown. So negative 15.6 times the unknown equals this number here. What will you do? Naturally, you know what to do. Divide both sides by 15.6. Make that negative 15.6. When you do, you have now solved for the earnings before interest and taxes. When I first did this problem, I thought I did it incorrectly. I wanted to get a positive EBIT. I went and checked my arithmetic everywhere, asking myself, where did I go wrong? I did not go wrong anywhere. This is, in fact, the correct answer. Then my next issue then was, if this is the correct answer, what does it mean? We're happy at the moment. I realize that we've got the right number. But what does it mean? Drawing a quick graph might help us explain it somewhat. Again, if the earnings before interest and taxes, the indifference point is negative, it says it would be in this quadrant here, okay, giving me a negative earnings per share. And you will, in fact, when you continue this problem on the template, get a negative earnings per share. But what does that mean? Hopefully, your true earnings before interest and taxes will be positive for both companies. And what it means would be this, that for all EBITs that are positive, I've got it down here, for all EBITs that are positive, greater than 0, Lowe's will have a higher earnings per share than Home Depot. Hopefully you understand the algebra. If not, go back through it several times until you do. But one thing that you should be asking yourself now is, how am I going to put this into Excel? One of your thoughts might be, he's finally going to allow us to cold type in a number. That I'm going to allow you to cold type in this value in the cell that says EBIT. Guess what? I'm not. I'm not going to allow you to cold type that in. Here's why. With everything you do in Excel with these problems, you need to think, I'm doing this in such a way that I can use the same problem over and over and over again in real life, if you will. So what we want to do is to come up with something whereby if I change the numeric values, I have a formula waiting for me in that cell. So here's what we do. We rewrite that formula, but this time solely as expressions. So EBIT, of course, minus the interest expense of Home Depot. You look back, and earlier the number there was the $696,000. That was the interest for Home Depot. I'm simply abbreviating it as I sub H times 1 minus the marginal tax rate over the shares of Home Depot. I do the exact same thing on the right-hand side. The only difference will be the subscript will be L for Lowe's. Now, one of the things that I want you to realize is in this problem, we are going to assume that the marginal tax rate for this problem and future problems like it would be the same. If that is the case, then I have a little note here. Since the marginal tax rates are the same, then I can divide both sides by 1 minus the marginal tax rate. In effect, it goes away. But algebraically, understand that I'm dividing both sides by 1 minus the marginal tax rate. So my equation is simplified already if I can divide both sides by this common 1 minus marginal tax rate. And that will be the case for all future problems of this nature. I'm making that assumption. Now I'm going to cross multiply exactly like we did earlier, but simply with the expressions. When I do, this will be the result. Now, after I cross multiply, I'm going to use the distributive property and distribute the savings of Lowe's to each of these two terms, distribute the savings, the shares, and here the shares from Home Depot to the EBIT and to the interest expense of Lowe's. Keep in mind, I don't have a subscript on the EBIT at all because I'm looking for the EBIT indifference. I think of it as a common EBIT, that point where they're both exactly the same. So this is what I get after I distribute. Okay, again, it doesn't matter if you have the shares for Lowe's here or in front. Now what will I do? I'm looking for, again, 4 terms, 2 on each side, looking for the terms with the EBIT. Okay, I see there's one there, there's one there. How do I get them both on the same side? For one thing, I could subtract EBIT times shares of Home Depot from both sides. I could add this product here. Let's say this product, this term, these two be multiplied together, add that to both sides. And when I do, this would be my result. So note that I have EBIT here, and these two terms, and I will factor out the EBIT. Okay, I factor out the EBIT. So here is my EBIT, okay, times this factor. To get the EBIT by itself, I will now divide both sides by this factor here. And now I have the expression that I want. It may look a little odd, and if it helps, clearly write it as shares of Lowe's and times interest expense of Home Depot. But I try to get it as concise as possible. The great thing is this: once we have this equation, we can now put that into my Excel spreadsheet, into that cell. One thing to certainly use caution on is to make sure you put all of the numerator in parentheses, then divided by, and put the denominator in parentheses as well, and that should do it for you. This is actually much easier than doing it by hand with the numbers. Believe me, it actually is. Do it a few times and see if it isn't the case.